Hello from the Center for Career and Professional Development. We are located on the third floor of the Rusk Building, and we are here to assist you in all of your career development and professional development needs. This means that we can help with everything from major exploration to critiquing your resume to assisting with the job search process. We are here to help you prepare for the workplace and postgraduate success any way that we can. Today, we're going to talk about first impressions and personal branding, which is a huge part of your professional development. We're going to walk through the basics of creating a positive first impression, as well as how to build your own personal brand. But to get us started, think to yourself, what are your first impressions of this image? And then, what are your first impressions of this image? Looking at the images side by side, let's compare the two. Who would you take more seriously? Does anyone know who either of these men are? The picture of the well-dressed individual on the far right is Walt Disney. He hated high school so much that he sent a letter to his principal telling him how disgusted he was by it. He left school by the age of 16 and never went back. The picture of our friend on the left is Ken Jeong. He graduated from Duke University and went on to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he graduated in 1995 as a medical doctor. He practiced medicine for a number of years and is a licensed physician in the state of California. When we first looked at the picture of Dr. Jeong, if I told you he was a doctor, I would definitely understand if many of you immediately were skeptical. These pictures help to give us an idea of what first impressions are and why they are more important than a lot of people may think. So how quickly do you form an opinion about someone? We make a judgment about someone in the first 1/10 of a second of meeting them. So once we meet someone, we immediately form an opinion about them, sometimes before we actually have the chance to talk to them. The first impressions we form about a person can span a wide variety of areas. We may make judgments about that person's likability, trustworthiness, competence, or aggressiveness. How hard is it to change a first impression? Let's say that you're in a class and your professor walks in 5 minutes late with a coffee in hand and was in no rush to get things started. What would your first impression of that presenter be? You would likely think that maybe they didn't want to be there or that they weren't interested in the topic at hand. If that was the first impression that they made, would you want to talk to them about first impressions and personal branding? Probably not. First impressions can really impact the opinions that others have of you, and that is one reason why it is so important to do what we can to manage those impressions. So let's talk about a scenario. Let's say that you had a crummy morning and you're driving to class when someone cuts you off. You're already in a bad mood, so the other driver gets the best of you, and you start yelling out the window at them. You speed by them and make sure to stare them down as you do. You get to class, and it turns out that the woman that you were yelling at is your professor. How awkward. Don't forget that you are always making a first impression. What kind of first impression did you just make in front of your professor? Probably not a great one. Sometimes acknowledging that the situation got the best of you can go a long way. So let's talk about a few ways to make a good first impression. We know that these can be so important, so we have a few tips for helping you to put your best foot forward. First is to be on time. How many of you have heard the phrase, to be early is to be on time, and to be on time is to be late? You always want to strive to be early. If you show up late to meet with someone, it sends an automatic message, especially if it's your first encounter with them. How early do you think you should be to an interview? We typically suggest around 10 to 15 minutes early. That gives you plenty of time to get checked in and to be punctual, but it's not so early that you feel awkward. Second is to mind your body language. Your body language and nonverbal communication can say a lot to someone without you saying anything at all. I can look across the room and see who's engaged in a conversation with me simply by looking at their body language. But if they're sitting with their head down on their desk, what would that indicate to me? It indicates that they're not listening, even if they are. Third would be to develop your elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is a quick snapshot in just a few minutes. This is especially important when you begin interviewing, but the general idea is that when someone says, "Tell me a little bit about yourself," You can answer comfortably and with confidence. Next, providing a solid handshake. Some people put a lot of emphasis on your handshake when they meet you, so you want to make sure it's sending the right message. Just like your body language, your facial expressions can say a lot. You always want to be aware of what message your facial expressions are sending. Make eye contact. This can be a tricky one. You have to walk a fine line when it comes to eye contact. You don't want to avoid people's eye contact because then you may be perceived to be disengaged or nervous, but at the same time, you don't want to stare them down. It makes people uncomfortable. Appropriate eye contact can indicate your level of confidence in a situation, so it can really affect the first impression that people make of you. Good eye contact comes with practice, but being intentional about making eye contact with someone will really help to start build your comfort level. Dressing appropriately for the situation. The way that you dress tells a story to someone who doesn't even know you. It is important that you think about the image that you want to convey when you leave the house every day. You also want to consider the community that you live in. Again, you are always making impressions. And finally, communicate clearly and confidently. Try to always speak clearly and audibly at an appropriate pace. Avoid mumbling or using an overly advanced or complicated vocabulary when it's not fitting for the situation. Let's talk about another scenario. So for your birthday, your best friend gave you a hat that had a kind of a crude saying on it. What's the big deal? It's funny and it's just to wear casually. But let's say that you wear it on the same day that you need to stay after class and talk to your professor. What are the chances, right? What kind of first impression does that make? You never know when you'll be making a first impression. Always be mindful of this when you get dressed and head out the door each day, that you're always representing your company, even when you're not on the clock. Now that we've talked about the importance of first impressions, we're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about your personal brand. Before we jump into personal branding, we're going to talk about branding in general. What does it mean and what is its importance? I'm going to put some pictures on the screen, and I want you to think about the first thing that pops into your head whenever you see them. So when these popped up on the screen, the first thoughts that went through your head may have been Q-tip, Kleenex, Band-Aid, and a koozie, right? Well, it's a cotton swab, tissues, a bandage, and an insulated cup holder. All of the names you may have originally thought about were all brands, not the actual product itself. That is what branding is. So now that we have an idea about what branding is, we're going to do the same exercise, but we're going to be looking at different people instead. So what is the first thing that comes to mind whenever you see any of these three people? Some of the things that may come to mind, maybe for Michael Jordan or basketball or Jordans, for Steve Jobs, thinking of Apple or computers, and for Joanna Gaines, thinking of Fixer Upper or Shiplap. All those things that you think of are part of those people's personal brand. It is what you think of them even when you don't know them. Your personal brand is just that. What do people think of you even when you're not around? Let's talk about another scenario. So you're on Facebook or Instagram, your social media of choice, and you get sucked into a post. You hop into the comments and you see that someone posted an absolutely ridiculous opinion. You can't help but respond. You had to set them straight. But when you walk into your interview the next day, the person who originally posted that comment is sitting on the interview committee. Oops. Keep in mind that you never know who you're interacting with online. So again, your personal brand is the idea of what people think of you whenever you're not around. It is the practice of people marketing themselves and their careers as a brand. You want to leverage this marketing ability to express and communicate your skills, your personality, and your values. The goal of building a strong personal brand is to develop your reputation and communicate your skills. This helps you to grow your network in a way that interests others. Your network will then seek you out for your knowledge and expertise because you are recognized by these skills. So what does your personal brand need to be? It needs to be compelling to your audience because this is what's going to sell you best and increase the chances of them buying into your brand. This is the image that is going to let them know what you are all about. What are some ways to build your personal brand? Whether you know it or not, you are already doing it. Attitudes, actions, and opinions that you have today are already sending the message of what your brand is made of. So what can you do to adjust or grow your brand? First, we encourage you to define your brand. What are your passions, your values? Reflect on these areas when developing your brand. Second, build and manage your marketing network. In collaboration with being consistent, make sure that your friends, family, customers, and clients are all speaking of you in the manner that is congruent with what you are trying to portray. We encourage you to rethink how you view your career. You aren't simply a student at the university or an employee at your company. Think about what other values and skills you bring to your position. Be authentic. Be honest about who you are and what you're aiming for. Be consistent. Make sure that your message and brand are always the same from company to company and person to person. Learning to influence in a positive manner. Use your personal power, role, and network to positively impact everyone you come in contact with. Seek feedback. Always look for constructive criticism. We must seek ways to improve in order to continue to learn. And finally, reassess. Again, we reiterate, without learning, there can be no growth. Always reassess and reevaluate where you are at and what you are portraying to the world. Another scenario, you're at home and you hop into D2L to check some grades. You notice that you were marked absent from your stats class yesterday. Surely that was a mistake because you were there. You'll just go talk to your professor. When you go to your professor to remind him that you were there, he points out that you were wearing headphones in class, and because of the no headphones policy, you were counted absent. You tell him that the headphones weren't even on, but he didn't know that. You sent the message that you weren't paying attention by wearing your headphones, and you were counted absent as a result. Remember, sometimes with first impressions, what the other person thinks is more important than what you intended. That's why you have to be so intentional and careful when interacting with everyone. To build a brand that you will be proud of, you want to first identify what your ideal brand will be. I encourage you to think about what type of position you hope to be in when you graduate, and think of some characteristics of what would make an individual good at that job. Think what you're known for. What are some words that align with your desired brand? Keep in mind the traits of your desired future position that we just mentioned. Begin with the end goal in mind. Think of the 5 traits that you desire and work towards them. Ask yourself in what ways you can be displaying those desired traits to others. If you wanted people to know you as being attentive, for example, you would make an effort to be attentive in every situation. In class, you would show your attentiveness by using good nonverbal communication, and you would be careful to put away your phone when engaging with other people so that you don't seem distracted. I would encourage you to identify your top 5 traits and make an intentional effort to work toward improving them every day. When you think about the skills that employers are looking for in new hires, and maybe for that position that you're aiming to get when you graduate from college, regardless of your work or major, employers want to know that you possess these transferable skills. Each year, the National Association of Colleges and Employers does a survey asking employers, what key skills are you looking for in a new hire? Here's a list of what employers are saying it is important for you to be able to demonstrate. This includes critical thinking and problem solving, professionalism and work ethic, oral and written communications, digital technology, leadership, teamwork and collaboration, global and intercultural fluency, and career management. These are just a few of the skills that employers tell us that they are looking for you to be able to demonstrate when you apply for positions with their companies. So how do we get started with this? When you're thinking about networking, we encourage you to utilize social media. Intentionally expand your network and be mindful of what others can see on your social media sites. Make connections, one person at a time. Make a commitment to meet a new person once a week from a different department or organization. This way you can meet many new individuals, but in a manageable and methodical way. This can help you to build a robust network. Connect with these individuals via email or LinkedIn. Utilize your downtime strategically. Read industry journals and think about your company and the positions that you want to get when you graduate. This will help to give you a leg up in the competition. It will strengthen your ability to hold engaging conversations with people in your network about the future of that industry. Finally, remember that building your brand won't happen overnight. It is a long process that takes persistence and consistency. Remember to work towards your brand every day and to utilize your support system and network to its fullest potential. This is the team here in the Center for Career and Professional Development. We are always ready and excited to meet you where you're at in your career development journey. We encourage you to visit us on the 3rd floor of the Rusk Building or engage with us virtually early and often throughout your time here at Stephen F. Austin. And to know that you're not out of the woods yet. This is a glimpse at all of the great services that we have to offer that can help you in this career and professional development journey. This includes document critique assistance, mock interviews, career expos, on-campus interviews, career coaching, and the utilization of Handshake, our career management platform. All of these things together can be valuable tools for you to use, and we would be happy to walk you through any of them. Thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to meeting you in the Center for Career and Professional Development.